Hello, Matt Elliott here.
Hi, Alan Smith here.
Hey guys, Ian Hume here.
Hi everybody, Jerry Taggart here.
Be sure to watch
Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV
for all the latest Leicester City news and information.
You can also subscribe on YouTube and various social media channels.
for the latest updates and news on Leicester City Football Club.
Come on, you foxes!
Happen in 49, 61, 63 or 69 when they reach the final. But the class of 2021 have delivered. Leicester City are FA Cup winners at last and are history makers at Wembley.
They have blown their rivals away. They have blown us all away in truth. Premier League champions 2016. The amazing Leicester City!
Till I Die TV, your first choice for everything Leicester City. Tune in and join in now.
Right, Chris.
All right there. How the devil are we all? It's Monday night. It is 7 o'clock. It's not Crackerjack, but it is very much the opposition view show. This is Leicester Till I Die TV. You can catch us now on Facebook and Twitter and on YouTube at Leicester Till I Die TV. If you are watching on YouTube, please remember to smash the likes, share if you can, but most importantly, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And thank you very much if you are listening to us rather than watching us. I have got a face for podcasts, as I keep being told. Leicester Till I Die is available on your favourite podcast station. It was 1-1. How do we feel? Here we go, and just say a good evening to, I've got to look at this carefully. I should have gone to Specsavers. Ox Frankie Wild. Good evening, sir. How are you? And it looks like he knows you, Darius. He says he's a big fan there. Scott, good evening to you as well. Thank you very much for joining us. What I love about this is, and with Darius, we did do the preview as well, and I thank him very much for coming back on tonight. But it's great after the show to get different, an opposition fan's perspective of the game. Well, let's find out what he thought of the game. Let's bring him in and say good evening to Darius.
Hello, everyone. How are you? Big shout out to my my friend Frankie in chat. Always a delight to see you. So the match on Saturday. I thought it was all round a disgraceful performance from two teams that had given up. I know I'm here mainly to comment on Manchester United.
No. Please give it. I mean, you're here to just chat about the game.
Well, when I think of Leicester, I think of a couple of things, and I think about work rate, like a sort of cohesive team that presses and works for each other, and a directness to goal. I saw absolutely none of that from Leicester, and as a sort of like vested interest, I was paying quite careful attention to Tielemans, who is often linked with Manchester United. I thought he had a terrible game and an awful audition, if it were. As for Manchester United, we're an absolute disaster at the moment. Like, there are so many players that have like a body of work where they have performed in the past. You look at Shaw, you look at Maguire, who I felt actually was probably man of the match. I'd be intrigued to know what our Leicester friends think about his performance, but I thought he was pretty solid and steady. But you look at Varane, like Champions League Varane, a man who has won, I don't know, is it 4 or 5 Champions Leagues, a World Cup, like France's most handsome man. He gets like he genuinely looked like a 14-year-old at a disco talking to a girl for the first time. The nerves that were pouring off him. Luke Shaw, I don't know what's happened to Luke Shaw. But then Alex Telles came on, and I've never seen a worse fullback performance at Old Trafford.
Really?
It was shocking. No commitment, no determination, no desire. Like all these things that you expect from like 11-year-olds.
Yes.
And so, all in all, I was disgusted with Manchester United's performance. And as a Leicester sort of like, I don't know, like sympathiser, I was very disappointed with Leicester because we were there for the taking, and so were Leicester.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I actually came off there saying I would have taken the draw at the start because our history at Old Trafford isn't brilliant. You know, you've. But that said, we'd gone into this game sort of 4 unbeaten against you. Obviously, it's now 5. But we were talking just before we came live, and I don't know what the guys in the chat think. And good evening, Spencer. Thanks for joining us, and Andrew as well. For me, as Leicester, we've seen such dire performances this season that I would take that as being an improvement. I mean, maybe that's how far we dropped this season, and I think you've got to look and say, certainly for Leicester, and it is easy to blame injuries, but it has been hell for us, and I don't like doing it. So I always used to moan at clubs that did it, but for Manchester United, I mean, is this an indictment of sort of how far you've dropped of recent years? You know, where does it land? You've got. Let's be honest with you. You've got a squad there that should be challenging for the title, and yet you're not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the club has been like very mismanaged. Everyone knows Manchester United's woes. They're discussed left, right, and centre, and a lot of it comes down to sort of like 3 factors. One is players that don't really have the minerals to be at Manchester United. They don't want to commit. They're pretty party boys, more concerned with social media. Or at least that's the narrative that comes out. And to be honest, it's one that is by and large true. The second thing is that we have huge legacy problems since the Ferguson succession with an ill-matched, bloated squad. And then the third issue going on Manchester United at the moment is that our manager, who isn't a manager, he's an office manager at best, hasn't been able to galvanise, motivate, or even impart any form of tactics to Manchester United. Like I can see Mr. Stephen Knight in the comments saying Manchester United are a team of individuals, and he's pretty. I mean, we're not a team; we're just a collection of individuals. Yes. But yes. I would suspect that most of the Leicester fans watching would have been utterly bemused at the formation and the lineup that Manchester United put out, with an apparent front two of Bruno and Pogba.
Well, as if by magic, I mean, everybody had you down at the start as this being your formation. I think formations are so fluid these days that it starts off as one and it's hard to guess what it is. I mean, I'll take your point. I don't think Maguire had a particularly bad game at all. After everything that he's been through and all the criticism he got, I was looking for him to score an own goal after 3 minutes or something like that, which he didn't manage to do. But yeah, you look at those names there: Sancho, Pogba, Fernandes. You know, there's Fred, Maguire. You know, there's big names there. I mean, De Gea, fantastic save from Fofana. You know, I think you forget what a good goalkeeper De Gea actually is. In fairness, but a goalkeeper to some degree can only be as good as his defense, if you like, you know. But like you say, I mean, with Ronaldo out, I mean, was that an illness?
Yes,
it was it right?
Yeah.
Yes, we don't think there was more to it.
No.
I was just trying to get the lowdown on.
Yeah, no, I understand. There's no conspiracy. There's nothing there. Ronaldo got sick on Friday, and they hoped that he would recover by Saturday, but he didn't. But the interesting thing about that is that Rangnick then recycled his tactics for the Manchester City match instead of putting Marcus Rashford in as the number 9. And previously in the week, he'd said that Rashford had all the makings of a number 9. So he doesn't fancy Rashford, or he didn't think that Rashford is mentally ready to play. There's a lot's going on with Rashford that we don't really know about.
Do you? I mean, there are problems behind the scene. We know that, and we're not sort of going to go into that. But I mean, do you think these players are going out thinking, "Well, hang on, you're not going to be my manager next season"?
Well, Matic gave an interview where he said, I mean, this is a sort of like a summary of it. He said that it's extremely difficult for any group of professionals, players, anyone, to function when they have a temporary boss. Because they don't know what's happening in the future, and it puts a lot of stress on people. And I mean, you would sort of think, like, I don't know what jobs yourself or the chat have had, but in jobs I've been in, I've known that the boss is going to be changed within 2 years or 3 years. And there comes a point where I know if I just keep my head down, don't do anything wrong, we'll get a new one in.
Yes.
Which is why I'm such a bargain as a worker. But
you are available. You are available.
Yeah. But it's like it's one of the big issues with Manchester United at the moment is actually someone that you've praised, which is De Gea. De Gea is. It's very, very rare for me to say this, but De Gea wasn't the worst goalkeeper on the pitch at the weekend. I think that as Leicester fans, you will all probably, and in my view quite rightly, pinpoint Schmeichel as the reason you didn't come away with 3 points. He conceded possession twice in the build-up to our goal, and Varane chased down a pretty awful kick from him, and Fred banged one in, and that was really that wasn't a pattern of play from Manchester United. That wasn't something that was worked in training. That was just typical Manchester United improvising. And
I think in regard to Schmeichel, and he's pulled us out of the fire so many times that you say, well, everybody makes a mistake, etc., etc. The problem is that he has been told this season, looking at it, to play out from the back. So he can't kick the ball. This is the problem with Schmeichel. I don't know what Schmeichel Senior was like, but Schmeichel Junior cannot kick the ball. It goes out, it goes in row X or whatever. He's really bad. But the way I look at it is, if you kick it out and you lose it, you are losing possession in their half. In the opposition's half. If you're messing about with it at the back and playing out from the back, you've got to have pretty good defence to be able to play that way. And our defence, like I say, this season has been absolutely shredded. They have to be introduced to each other before the game because they've forgotten who each other are. They've never seen each other on the pitch. So, so many times this season, I've been on this show swearing about Schmeichel and Rodgers because, you've played a ball out and you just, we lose it. We just try and, we end up passing it across the goal. And so yes, I have to be honest with you. I am very, very, the whole thing annoys me with that, but I think it's what he's being told to do, unfortunately. I mean, Andrew says here, Darius, surely players should be going out to impress the new manager. Well, the problem is they don't know who the new manager is yet, do they?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's it precisely, is that you would think that, but we don't have a new manager. And my understanding is that, so everyone knows that there are 2 managers in the race, which is Pochettino and Ten Hag.
Yeah.
Pochettino could be announced at any time because in his contract he has a clause that will basically entitle him to 20 million if PSG don't meet certain requirements, which they haven't met.
Okay. Oh, wow.
So Pochettino could literally just go at any time because PSG owe him 20 million, essentially. With Ten Hag is trying to agree similar things with Manchester United. And even if that was all announced tomorrow, even if that was all agreed tomorrow, he still wouldn't be announced until Ajax had secured their title. Or until the title was decided.
Yes.
The players, however, you've got to imagine, will know within hours of an agreement between any of the clubs.
Yeah.
There isn't an agreement between the clubs. They don't know who the manager is. They've received nothing from their agents. They don't know what sort of style is being played. They don't know if they're wanted. And some of them don't know if they want to be here. I think that everyone who was watching the match, who saw Pogba's performance, wouldn't look at that player and think, do you know what, lads? Let's make him the best paid player in Premiership history. This is exactly what we're looking for.
Totally. I mean, how much did you? You don't have to tell me how much you paid for him. You know, it's it's in bad. But no, totally agree with you. And I just think I've said this so many times, but I just think Manchester United are a huge club. Manchester United. I think you're suffering because of how successful you were under Sir Alex Ferguson. But my God, you were the best team in the world. You know, it was amazing, and all credit to you for those years. But how has that club got into a position where you've got rid of a manager, I believe, because you were pandering to the fans and you wanted to get them back on side after the ESL fiasco?
Is this Solskjaer?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
You're worse off than you were under Solskjaer when he's or looking at where you're going to end the season possibly, and then you can't get a manager, in straight away. We wanted Rodgers. We went and got Rodgers, and in fairness, we wanted him before the end of the season so that he could play the last 10 games and see what the players were like, because you're not going to see much in friendlies, but those last 10 Premier League games, which are proper, games, worth points, he got a lot of sort of knowledge about his team. But Manchester United, I mean, they said we've just interviewed somebody. Well, you sat Solskjaer how long ago,
Well, okay. So the Solskjaer thing, I as a lifelong Manchester United fan, I'm in love with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and I always will be.
Of course, yes.
For everything he did. I wasn't over the moon at him being appointed because I thought it was madness.
It was a strange appointment, yes.
Well, it was a bit like you seen that film Ocean's 11?
Yes.
Where they just run around the world and they assemble someone who's good at safe cracking, someone who knows computers. That's what they did with Ollie. They were like, Ollie, have you got any coaches? And he was like, nah. Do you need them? And they were like, yeah. And then they got guys who used to play for Manchester United, like Mike Phelan from Australia, he was running a Barbie or something there. And then they like Michael Carrott, where would he have been? In a fruit and veg stand in Gateshead or something. And they sort of just got in this collection of people, and it was meant to be for a couple of weeks, months. And then that ended up being our managerial team for 3 years.
And again, you gave Ollie. I mean, he did come in and he did, get that unity back into the team by the look of it from the outside. Yep. So well done. But then he hadn't even finished his temporary contract, and you gave him a permanent contract. Well, let the guy finish, because it all went wrong then, didn't it? So let him finish his temporary contract.
I think that if we'd waited to the end of the season, Ollie wouldn't have been signed, but he did win, I think, 12 games in a row, and then and then beat PSG. But the thing with Ollie, right, is we lost 5-0 to Liverpool, 2-0 to Manchester City, and then we got beat 4-1 at Watford. These are historic results for Manchester United. Yeah. He had to go. Right, and it's believed that Ronaldo played quite a big part in him going, saying he's just not up to Manchester United standards and the coaching staff. Carrick came in, and Carrick had a trilogy of 3 matches against Chelsea, Arsenal, Villarreal, and genuinely he looked like the best manager that we'd had since Ferguson with how he set his team up. And then we got in Rangnick, and it's just it's absolute madness to bring in Ralph Rangnick. He's not a coach that I think would get a job in the Championship, let alone at Manchester United. But when you talk about sort of getting Rodgers in, I think the situation is different. Is that Rodgers was essentially what would he be like? He'd be like Cicero, the Roman orator that got exiled. He was exiled to Scotland, and he was constantly trying to get back to the Premier League. He won. I believe he won. Did he win consecutive trebles?
He did.
Up at
he did. It was actually up, and this was what, in fairness, and I get it, upset the Celtic fans. He was on for the treble.
Would that be 9 and 10 in a row as well, which is a big thing in Scotland?
I'm not sure, but I mean, and I always say this, we mustn't forget that for a lot of his time when he was winning all these, Rangers were like 3 divisions below because they'd been dumped down. So, if you can't, you or me could have managed that Celtic team to win all that, but it's still got to be done. But yeah, so he was on for the treble, which is why it was Celtic fans were so annoyed at him walking out. But Leicester said, no, we want him now. We're paying you compensation for taking him, so we want him now. And what my thought is, if Leicester can do that, surely Manchester United.
Well, maybe we're going for a sort of a higher class of morals than Brendan Rodgers in that case, with like managers that won't walk out on their team at the business end of the season. I don't know. I've always quite liked Brendan Rodgers.
I don't know. I know where you're coming from, but
it seems he deserted a team that were on the verge of getting a treble.
But because the job that he was being offered wouldn't have been available. We'd sacked Claude Puel, we targeted, and obviously we knew that Rodgers wanted to come back, and that job at Leicester might not have been there at the end of the season.
That's very true, but I just think that like this to me is not really an issue. Like when Manchester United appoint their manager, like Ollie went in November, and it was clear that any Premier League challenge was over. Okay, we weren't going to win the Premier League, FA Cup, like what's it called, Carabao Cup and Champions League. Very unlikely, to be honest, to win any of them. Shout out to Cicero. Very, very unlikely to win any of them. But what we were sort of looking to do was transition Manchester United into a modern football team, right? Which is like inverted fullbacks, all this fun stuff, high pressing, like no more mid block. We want a high block, like a sort of a reset of our footballing values. And because I'm sorry, I was going to swear there. Because we've messed up so many times by recruiting managers, I think it's perfectly fine to take your time and get the right guy in. But what I'm not a fan of is bringing in Ralph Rangnick, who I think has been an utter disaster. And to get back to the game on Saturday, I think in the first half, this might be me being biased, I thought Leicester looked like a collection of people that were pretending to be a football team. They offered nothing really. I know there was a sort of Harvey Barnes attack, but there was no cohesion. There was nothing there. They couldn't really get a grips in the midfield. And then Rangnick took McTominay off, and Leicester absolutely dominated for the rest of the match in the middle of the midfield. Even the introduction of Nemanja Matic couldn't stem the Leicester midfield, and it was an absolutely amateur mistake from an amateur manager. In my
do you think? McTominay, and I was going to come to this, but as we mentioned him, the first point I've got down here was, should that have been a red in your eyes?
Well, this is the thing. It doesn't really matter about our eyes. For me,
no, it doesn't. Of course, it doesn't. No, but
when you think about a classic red card, for me, it's always a player miscontrolling the ball and then diving in to win it. And as a footballer, I'm an extremely dirty player and I make a lot of fouls on purpose.
You're admitting to it.
Yeah, I'm that kind of player. McTominay, I don't think there was any intent in what he did. Personally, if it were up to me, I think that is dangerous enough to warrant a straight red. But now with VAR, I think we just have to accept as football fans, we don't actually know the rules anymore.
No.
Because I haven't met anyone who says that wasn't a red card, but professional referees looked at it on the telly and said it's not a red. And I just don't think we know the rules anymore.
I always look at these decisions and think, if it had gone the other way, what would I be saying? And if that was a Leicester player doing it on a Man United player, I would not like to have made that decision. And I think for me, VAR is supposed to be for clear and obvious mistakes. And I don't necessarily think that was a clear and obvious mistake, because I think you could tell he was going for the ball. I don't think he was, he was his foot was off the floor, but was it high? And the refs have only got a minute to make these decisions in. But I think whether he took him off knowing that, well, there might be another yellow in him, it's. I agree with what you say there, Scott. Perez springs to mind, and I don't. I mean, we actually appealed Perez's red card in that game. Unfortunately, they wouldn't give him any more time off, so we had to stick with just the 3 games. But we did want more. Sorry if he's watching, Perez. Sorry, I think you're on your way though. So I think possibly that's why he was in my mind, possibly, taken off. I mean, those are the stats from the game, and that pretty much, if you're looking at those stats on their own, you'd go, yeah, a draw. It's got a draw written all over it. I have to ask you this, because I thought when I was watching that game, I was surprised, and I know it's referees' decisions, and you get fouled if you break wind as you run past a player these days. But I did think Manchester United weren't the cleanest of teams. Should we just put it that way?
Yeah, no, it's good. I like teams that foul. It's very important. Like a lot of the times, if you're a sort of like a top team, sometimes you have to mix it up with teams that are less that are less technically able as you. So it's important sort of to be out fouling. But the issue with Manchester United is it's petulant fouls. Like Man City make an enormous amount of fouls, but they're tactical fouls. They're to stop transitions and things. Whereas I think in the first minute, Luke Shaw, he tried to get a ball off. It might have been, I think it was your right back. I can't recall who it was. Completely mistimed everything and just took him out. And it wasn't tactical. It wasn't malicious. It was just clumsy. And I mean, I have to say, I didn't think that United fouled a lot in that game, but I'd like to have seen more fouling, to be honest, but just done correctly.
I said this again before on one of your show. I tend to watch ITV4 a lot, which I don't know if that makes me a sad bastard or not, but there's a lot of the big match on from the 70s and 80s, and my God, players were taking lumps out of each other in them days, and you never saw a card. So that was, as this older generation says, that's when men were men and played football the way it should be played. But yeah, you can't get away with anything these days. I mean, I've kind of, and we'll come on to VAR again later, but like you say, I'm not one of these that says, well, it's at Manchester United, so they're always going to get a penalty, blah, blah, blah.
I
don't believe any of that. I think it's just, the fact that you were so good at the time. But do you think VAR is good, and I was one that wanted VAR. I just don't think it fits in with the rules as they sit at the moment. I think the rules have actually got to be changed to allow VAR to be used properly.
Yeah, okay. So I hate cricket, right? It's a very boring. It's a boring sport. I don't understand it. But my father loves cricket, and when I go and visit him, sometimes he makes me watch it. And as someone who doesn't like cricket and doesn't understand it, I know how LBW decisions work in cricket.
Yeah.
Right? They bowl it, and you've got to see if it's if they're in the crease, and you've got to see if it's on a line, and it's got to be hitting the wicket. And as the whole thing goes, it's easy to follow along, and you know what's going to happen.
Yes.
With VAR, and particularly at Manchester United, I don't know how well this is known amongst opposition fans, but Manchester United has no television screens for the fans on the pitch. Like we have no big screens, so there's none of that VAR decision complete penalty stuff. Right. Like we don't have that. That's the state of our stadium, to be honest. So with VAR, what I would like to see is for things like offsides. I don't know how practical this is, but can we not just bung some microchips in the players' heels and just have like a live line that's worked on a computer? I don't know if that's easy to hack or whatever, but that seems something to do. But I just want them to sort of say, is this like, has contact been made? Where's he going? Blah, blah, blah. Penalty. And it's just a very easy, streamlined process. But I'm actually a fan of VAR in principle. But I can't help but when Fred scored, I didn't even celebrate because is he going to be onside? I've no idea.
Yes.
It's taken the fun out, the explosion of joy that used to get out of a goal. And so all in all, I think it's a bad thing. I think it's wrecking fans' experiences of the match.
It is. I think the problem is that, as I say, it's there to make to cut out the clear and obvious mistakes. If you're taking this long to make a decision, then it's not clear and obvious. In my mind, you should be able to look at that and in 2 or 3 takes go, well, yeah, that's obvious. But they're not. They're taking so long. It's down to, I mean, you know, when we won the FA Cup final last year, Chilwell's goal. I mean, that must have been a toenail offside. You know what I mean? But okay, and that I like that decision.
Yes,
but, obviously, you know, but it's just. It is taking the fun out of it. And we'll come on to sort of Maddison's later, but he was off celebrating and what have you, and then it got taken off him. But yeah, I think it needs to be looked at. But we say this every season, don't we? But Inacho's goal, it was a nice movement, I thought, from Leicester, that.
Well, yeah, you would. As a United fan, I was not happy with that goal.
No, and I get that. I was playing a little bit devil's advocate there.
You see, Telles and Varane, who are meant to be, if not world class, elite players. Like completely taken out with a cross. I don't know how well our Leicester friends know this, but Maguire and Varane were switched in that game. Maguire is normally the left.
Yes.
Yeah, Maguire's played left-sided centre back since day dot at United. He's never not played that position, and then he came out with him and Varane swapped. So maybe that's a mitigating factor. But I also felt if you're a goalkeeper and you get your full hand to the ball, and it's not, you know, going in the corner, it should be saved. I felt De Gea should have done better with that, to be honest, all round. But you can't fault Iheanacho for it. He took it well. You know, he got a header on target, and he got a goal for it. So yeah, I mean, congratulations to Leicester, but I was very surprised that you didn't then try and really go at us by repeating that.
That's kind of Brendan Rodgers for you, but in fairness, you didn't. You know, he's quite. You know, we've seen games out where we've gone 1-0 up, and then every defender we've got is on the pitch, sort of thing. But you didn't give us a chance, because what we've done a lot of the time is, as soon as the opposition scored, we've attacked them and we've got one back almost straight away. Or we've come out, you know, second half and got an early goal. You got that goal and suddenly you were back in the game.
Well, it was a goal. It was a goal from nothing, as we've discussed. It was from Schmeichel. But I looked at there were 2 players from Leicester that really impressed me. I thought Johnny Evans had a decent game, but we know Johnny Evans. We like Johnny Evans. He's a good man, good player. I thought that Dewsbury Hall looks like someone who's got a really bright career. I liked his energy. I liked him trying to make things happen. He looks to be a player that I imagine you guys love down at Filbert Street or whatever your new stadium's called. And I thought Harvey Barnes looks like, I don't know how good Harvey Barnes is. I don't know if that is the limit of his technical abilities, but he's got running, he's direct, he's got desire. He goes towards the goal. I remember he gave Delo a problem in the first half with a run from left to right. I was very impressed with Harvey Barnes. And I was very surprised that you didn't just go at us with him more often.
Harvey Barnes is excellent. You know, he's come through the academy. I mean, when Thomas is injured at the moment, the left back, and you know, James Justin is a great left back. But when you can tell when we've had Thomas, Dewsbury Hall, and Barnes all down that left hand side, you can tell that they've come through together. They're used to playing with each other. It's so smooth, and it's a joy to watch. Barnes, he's one of those players that fans. I love the guy, but a lot of fans. You know, some players, whatever they do, they'll never please the fans, you know. last year, they said like, oh, he needs to get more goals in his game, and he's scoring goals. Oh, he's too selfish. I mean, what the hell do you want? What I love about Barnes is he's not scared. He gets the ball, he runs at the defence, and he scares the defence, and you may well get a free kick or something out of it. And he'll run to that byline and get the cross in. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's not. Well, we did a show last night, and we picked our England 23 to go to Qatar, and we put Barnes in that squad. And it wasn't all Leicester fans. Let me just say that there was a Palace fan on as well. So I'm accusing nepotism, but. I think he was on the cusp of the England team when he got injured before. But I do like Harvey Barnes. And I think, and this is what annoyed me when all the fans were calling for Rodgers to go. It's a long-term thing he's building with Leicester. And he's 3 years now into his contract. He managers these days, and at Man United, managers aren't given the chance to get things right, if it goes wrong. But if we can keep the majority of this squad together, then who knows? I think this year has been a blip. But we've talked about VAR a lot. Yes. Your thoughts on the Maddison disallowed goal? I mean, like we said, he went off celebrating, and that exactly proved your point that you can't do that as a fan these days.
No, I would suspect though that the Leicester fans watching didn't notice anything wrong in the build-up, because I didn't.
No,
I
always the referee didn't. To be fair,
yeah, no one did.
No,
I mean Varane was on the floor crying, and this annoyed me because in the Arsenal match that Carrick managed, I don't know if anyone remembers this. David De Gea had his toes stepped on by someone, a United player. And he just lay on the floor crying, and someone smacked it in. I think it was Smith Rowe.
Yeah.
I just think, get up and do your job, and VAR can sort it out if there's been a foul. Yeah. But when I saw it from one angle, from two angles, from three angles, I was like, what is this? This look, this is perfectly fine as a goal. And then I saw the angle the ref saw. And I understand why it was disallowed. Like the one that the ref disallowed it on, I looked at it and it does look like his leg gets swept from him. So I understand why it would be frustrating. But once again, professional referees have looked at it and have said, yeah, that's a foul.
No, I mean, I get, like I said earlier, with these decisions, I always think if it was at the other end, would I have been at the other end? I wouldn't have complained having seen it in normal speed and normal time. But yet when it slowed down, and there is this argument, well, everything looks worse when it slows down. But that's, they're slowing it down so they can see what has happened. And when it was slowed down, and you did see it from that angle, he took his foot. He did take his foot, But then you got, I just... If the referee, I mean, to me, the referee had a good view of that. It wasn't like the referee was trying to look through two or three players. As far as I could see, he'd got a clear view of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like, this thing, you've mentioned it as well quite a lot this evening, clear and obvious. Now, I don't know where that comes from. I've heard it a lot, but I don't know if that is what VAR's remit is. I don't know if VAR is some sort of protection against the Premier League getting sued by a gambling company if they, lose a massive amount of money on a poor decision. Yeah. But that one, from one angle, it looked like a clear foul. And so I think it's okay to disallow it. Personally, United didn't deserve it. It was a stupid mistake from the Leicester player. Varane's falling over. There's no need to do it. And to be fair to him, method acting Varane, he committed to it, and it all worked out well for us. But in some ways, I want this team to be punished at the moment, Manchester United.
Really? Wow.
Yes, when we play at home, I want them to experience the utter contempt that us, the fan base, hold them in. And it's simply for one thing, and it's lack of work rate.
Mm.
Like, I don't like everyone can have a bad game.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like when I get an ice cream and like the Mr. Whippy doesn't do it properly, I don't berate him for 6 hours on social media about how he's dusted as an ice cream man. But he's got to work. Like, they have to start working as players. And as we discussed earlier, I'd love to know what your chat thought about Yuri Tielemans' performance, because as someone who's linked with Manchester United a lot, I saw his performance as a bit of an audition, and I was not. I was very, very underwhelmed by his performance. That did not look like a great player to me.
It wasn't his best performance.
Okay.
But then, as you look at the team, it wasn't an overall brilliant performance. Anyway, it wasn't the performance that we put in, last year, or even the performance we managed to do, when we played you at the King Power earlier in the season. And sometimes you look at these players, and although world class, and he's captain of Belgium, and they're with the first or second FIFA ranked team, etc., etc. But players can't do it on their own. It's like Ronaldo. If he has a bad game, if everybody else around him's having a bad game, he can't do it all on his own as much as he tries.
So he doesn't take control of. He doesn't try and take control of a game. Like go and put a meaty challenge in. Go and demand the ball.
He can do. I mean, he's certainly. He's how can I put this? Although Kasper Schmeichel's the captain. He kind of is, outfield, if you like. You know what I mean? So
it's a midfield general. Yes,
a midfield. That's the words. But yeah, I mean, like I say, if you go back to what we would say would be the real Tielemans, and we could say this about a lot of our players, the real, Soyuncu. I mean, Soyuncu as a defender has had an awful game season. Compared, he came back from the Euros. He'd had a bad Euros and he's been awful. And we know that's not him. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I don't think you'll get Tielemans. And I know the Sun have been reporting that your favourites, etc. But if you don't get top four, I don't think you get Tielemans.
Top four. We will not get top four.
No. Tielemans wants Champions League football.
Okay.
And he can have his pick of the teams.
Does he get in Liverpool's team, City's team, Chelsea's team for you?
I don't know whether he'd get in Man City's team, but then let's be honest with you,
Yeah, it's difficult.
It's one of those. Would he get into Liverpool's team? Yes, I think he would. Chelsea's, after the performance they had at the weekend, probably yes.
Yeah.
Tottenham, Arsenal, yes. Barcelona's, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich. We're talking about that he's going to go to another English team. That's not guaranteed.
He's not getting in the Bayern Munich team. I can tell you that.
No.
Who would he replace at Liverpool?
Well, I don't know the Liverpool team well enough, to be honest with you, to say who
Henderson,
he would drop
Fabinho,
out.
Thiago.
Yeah, I mean,
is he of that quality?
On his day, yes.
How consistent
Definitely.
Is he?
How what? Sorry.
Consistent is he? Out of 5 games,
I can't say on this season, because this season, like I said,
right? Okay.
Everything's been cocked up. I wouldn't say anybody's been consistent this season, and that's part of the trouble. On a normal season, if you like, but on the past 2 seasons, he's probably one of our most consistent players. When he wasn't in there, you knew it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
okay.
You can take Ndidi out and not necessarily miss him, but you put Mendy in and he's as good as on the blocking, A Match of Opinion says there, Tielemans was instructed to stay further back to help Mendy cover defensive duties, to allow KDH and Maddison the freedom to find more forward. And the problem with Brendan is, and this gets me a little bit with Brendan, is he's more concerned quite often about what the opposition are going to do. So we're playing Man United this week, so we've got to do this. Then next week, we're playing Crystal Palace next week, right? So we need to pick your best 11 that's going to play well for you. You know what I mean? And stick with that. And it's. But then again, like I say, it's been a season when you just go in on a Saturday morning and said who's fit, and whoever puts their hand up gets a game, sort of thing. But if I said, if you said to me, would Tielemans add something to your team now? Yes, he would.
I don't think he would, from what I've seen. I
No,
mean,
not on that one
Yeah.
game. Not on
Okay.
that one game, And let's be honest with you, I'm sure there's games and we've looked at Ronaldo and gone, who is he?
I don't think anyone in their right mind would compare Ronaldo to Yuri Tielemans.
No, I'm not comparing. No, what I'm saying is, with Ronaldo's reputation and his history, and he is one of the best players in the world, but he has bad games.
He does, but
then he has games like when he'll pull you out a 3-0 victory, not a 3-0, but a 3-2 victory. Tielemans,
right, is even when Ronaldo has a bad game, and this is why I was very disappointed with Tielemans, is the fire and the desire in Ronaldo doesn't go. He gets it wrong, but he gets up and he keeps going. It's the same with all top players, and I've seen Yuri Tielemans play exceptionally for Leicester against us, and but it's unfortunate, but it's quite easy to play against Manchester United, especially for Leicester for some reason. But in a game we were there for the taking.
Yeah.
Manchester United were there for the taking, and I saw nothing from Tielemans trying to drag his team forward to go and get that. I saw it from Harvey Barnes. I saw it from Dewsbury Hall. I did not see it from Tielemans. And I think a player like that does not improve Manchester United. I want people with desire and hunger and just this insane mania to go out and dominate and win a game. Just off the force of personality, and that's what Ronaldo has. Tielemans would never have.
I wouldn't argue with that at all. We've seen Ronaldo's desire, but like I say, any player can have bad patches. Messi can have bad, a couple of games and not score. Whatever.
Yeah.
It happens. If taking Ronaldo out the picture, and I'm not comparing them. I was just sort of using him as an example.
Okay.
But taking Ronaldo out the picture, is there anybody? If you had said to me, is there anybody in that Manchester United team that I would swap for Tielemans? If Man United came and said, right, we'll just do a straight swap. Who do you want? Outside of Ronaldo. There's probably not an outfield player, I would say.
Bruno?
Really, yeah. There's not, because we know what he can do other than this season,
Yeah.
We're going to lose him. If we can keep him, I'd love it. I'd love to be able to keep him because, like I say, I know what we see him week in, week out, and we've seen him over the 3 seasons here, but. He cost us 40 million, and that's the player we've got. How much was Pogba?
90.
Yeah.
And we're
Is
losing
he a 90
him for
million
£3.
pound player, would you say?
Absolutely not.
Exactly, yes. It's in him, and he does it when he goes.
No, it's not in him. It's not. No.
But he plays well for France, doesn't he, though?
Does he?
I'm not a French follower, but I heard he does.
No, this is a bit of a myth. He has a lot of people that sort of cover him at France, but what he does have is he has an extremely accurate long ball that is crucial to how they use Kylian Mbappe. But there is, from my understanding, I don't know if Frankie is still here, but he's a Frenchman. From my understanding, in France, the Parisians, the Frenchmen in general, they're always revolting, but they're very cross with Pogba's performances over since the World Cup. The chickens are beginning to come home to roost for Pogba. But just to get back to Tielemans, my last sort of word on it, I think, would be that I'm very, very surprised you paid £40 million for him, and you're going to lose him for 25 million. That doesn't seem to be the Leicester that I've become accustomed to, of being well managed and demanding ridiculous fees for players and then getting them. What's happened there? Is it COVID?
To be honest with you, we've been in contract talks with him for over a year.
Mm-hmm.
So when we started talking about a new contract, he'd still got a couple of years left, if you like, 2 and a bit years left. So in plenty of time. And you've seen, we've tied James Justin down to a new contract. Ricardo, who was being touted as one of the best right backs in Europe a couple of seasons ago, tied him down to a new contract. The youngsters, we're tying them down. And hopefully Tielemans is looking at that and going, because I think with Tielemans as well, he knows it's been a bad season for Leicester. He knows we should be higher. And I think he looks at it that who are Leicester going to sign? What's their ambition? And if he could be sat there going, my God, Ricardo's just extended his contract. Fofana, I mean, look at Fofana. Everybody wants him. He signed a new contract. So he may be sat there thinking, because he's never actually said no to Leicester. This is what we've got to think we remember. Take into the fact that a lot of it is paper talk and a lot of it is, conjecture. But
you have said that he wants.
He's never actually said, I don't want to sign for Leicester. And whether you believe the Sun, the Star, the French papers, the Belgian papers, they can all give you a different story on the same day. But he's never actually said no. But you would think, and I say this, that if he was going to sign, he probably would have done by now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he could have gone in January, and we could have sold him in January. But like I say, I think he really wants Champions League football. So if he went in January to Man United and then you finished, I don't know, 6th or whatever, you're not going to get Champions League football. So he's no better off necessarily than he was, especially if Leicester go back to having another good season next season. So he's waiting to see where he can go. 25 million, I mean, he has only got a year left. And he could go for nothing. He could actually just sign a new contract and put a clause in it saying, I'll sign you a new contract, but if somebody comes in for 40 million, I'll go. And then we get the money back that way. It's not through lack of trying. Do you know what I mean? With Yuri, we've been speaking to him. It's not like we've let his contract run down, and I know a lot of clubs do that. We haven't. Spurs are very much like that. They leave it to the very last minute. But we've been talking to him for a long time. And I just think he's a young guy. He's ambitious. He's playing in, like say, for Belgium, who are they're now the second best FIFA ranked team in the world. He wants to play at the top level. And I get it, And whatever we say about Leicester, there's always bigger fish out there. And I'm sure Lutons and Rochdales will say that about Leicester. It is all this grade. So we will have to wait and see. If he goes, I will say thank you very much, Yuri. We would have lost we would have lost 15 million. If he goes for 25, we will have lost 15 million on him. We lost 30 million on Slimani. Right. 15 million actually isn't a bad deal. I know I'm being facetious there, but but 30 million we lost on Slimani.
It seems like poor management from Leicester, but what I assume happened is similar to what's happened with us with Pogba, is that a deal was lined up and then COVID just took the finances away from lots of clubs. Like Pogba would have been a Real Madrid player if it weren't for COVID by now. So as well, was Tielemans going to move?
No,
because Leicester can't let him get 12 months left on his contract. That's awful from a football club.
But what do you do as a club when you're negotiating with a player? Do you drop him and say, well, until you sign or let us know one way or the other, you're not playing in the team, and then you're cutting your nose off to spite your face? We open negotiations in plenty of time. He's just not wanted to commit. Now, you could say, like, well, if you're not bothered to commit, we don't want you, and sell him. But if he's had a bad performance, it's not because he's, spat his dummy out the pram or anything like that.
No, he's a professional. I understand that.
Yeah.
It's just he's your most bankable asset, isn't he? Who do you get more money for? If he had 3 years left on his contract, he's an £80 million player, isn't he?
Probably nobody, in fairness. But I go back and say, what can you do when you are negotiating with the player for so long, and he doesn't want to sign, but he hasn't said no? Because if he'd come round and said no, under no circumstances am I signing a new contract with Leicester, would have put him up for sale.
Well, I think
Because
I think that's what you do, isn't it? Like
Yes.
when it gets to 3 years, if he hasn't signed an extension, or when it gets to 2 years and he hasn't signed an extension, you call his agent in and you instruct him to go and find him a new club.
Well, this is it.
With
See,
a £60 million transfer.
This is why I'm saying don't be surprised if he does stay at Leicester.
Why would he stay at Leicester? With great respect to Leicester Football Club, because it's a great club, but he's been on the verge of playing in the Champions League for 2 years in a row, and it didn't happen. He then won an FA Cup, which I would imagine is a massive success for Leicester City. At this point, it would be huge for Manchester United to even see the bloody FA Cup.
Yes, yeah.
And so I'm not disparaging that at all. The FA Cup's a wonderful competition. I'm sure that you're very proud of your team for winning it. But do you not think that that this might be the extent of where this Leicester team is at the moment? That it's on the verge Champions League qualification, a cup team, and it's not the best platform for a player who, as you've said, is used to playing in a team that is ranked second in the world.
Okay, well, let's say, for example, he's at a club where, let's be honest with you, we're one of the best run clubs, if not the best run club in the country.
100%.
Amazing facilities, training facilities, and thank you for the money for having Maguire for that. Always have to be kind and say thank you for that.
I'm glad that your injuries have really tailed off since that place opened.
I know. It's a double-edged sword, isn't it? You know, it was a bit tongue in cheek, but allow me my moment of smugness. And he gets on with Brendan Rodgers. You know, he gets on with the owner. You know, he saw the way he was hugging the owner after the FA Cup. You know, he does love the club, but he is ambitious and he has got ambitions to play. Now, look at Riyad Mahrez. He wanted to leave Leicester.
Yeah.
He went and sat at Charles de Gaulle Airport waiting for his agent to ring him on deadline day in case he got a move and he could fly off. You know, we didn't qualify for Europe that season because he had to have 4, 5, or 6 games off because his head wasn't right or whatever. Wobble it, please, Riyad. You know, he said, I want to go to Manchester City. So, yes, he's gone to Manchester City. And let's be honest with you, he's always going to get into the Algerian team. No disrespect to Algeria, but they don't have that many good players. Now, he plays, but not regularly. He was the first name on the sheet at Leicester. He was a big name at Leicester. He was being, you know, every week he was being talked about. He's not now. You know, don't get me wrong, he has good games, he scores, etc., etc. But he's not the big fish that he was at Leicester. He's suddenly just another fish, if you like. You know, if Yuri was to go to Liverpool, Barcelona, anywhere like that, is he going to be guaranteed starting place? Now, I don't agree that a player should get into the team just on his name. You know, I don't. I think,
course,
as soon, you know, Tillemans is fit, right? We'll drop whoever and put him back in. I don't agree with that, but you know, when he's fit and when he's playing, he's got to consider he's probably one of the first names on that sheet. Will he be that at Liverpool or at Man City? You know, or even if he'd gone to Manchester United last season, where would he be now? What would that have done to his game? Would he be the player he could be if he'd had a year at Manchester? No disrespect to Manchester United, but you know, at the moment, it wouldn't have furthered his career, and he'd have possibly been in and out of the team, you know, because they're swapping it around so much. So Leicester offers him stability, but it's whether that is enough. But, you know, if he wasn't going to sign, or if he wasn't a bit of him that says, well, look, I am still considering Leicester, why hasn't he just said, I want to go, put me up for sale?
Well, I mean, can you imagine if he said that?
Well, no, but players do, don't they? When it comes to a contract, like you said before, you don't sign the contract, then it's guess what, we'll put you up for sale then. Because you've said you won't, you're asking for this, and we can't give you this. Therefore, you don't want to play for us. Therefore, we'll put you up for sale.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the points that you've given, and I would think that you're going to lose Tielemans in the summer. He's a confident young man. I think that not only would he want to go to a club in the Champions League, he'd relish that kind of competition. Like when you look around Kevin De Bruyne, his mate at City, and seeing what Kante and Mahrez have achieved, maybe not so much Danny Drinkwater after his moves.
Not at all, Danny Drinkwater.
Yeah, I think his last highlight was, did he break a 16-year-old's leg or something in an under-17 game?
Probably. Like, that is the big example of the grass isn't always greener.
Yes, that's true. But all players think that they're going to make it. You know, they've always been the best player. And I would now I don't want Tielemans at Man United, having seen him not really go for it in a game that was winnable. So I hope you keep him. And to address a matter of opinions comment, it is a matter of opinion, but I think that
it is. It's what football's all about.
I think that I see Leicester as one of the best run clubs in the league, and I just find it amazing that they've got into this situation with Tielemans, where a £40 million asset basically has to be sold for 25 million if he doesn't sign a contract in the next couple of months. It's just not what I expect from. It's not what I expect from Leicester City. So I'm not disparaging how it's been handled and stuff. I'm just interested if it's like Paul Pogba, and a lot of it is down to COVID, where a move was going to happen and then it didn't happen, and no one knows where they are. So it's not a criticism of Leicester.
No. I mean, look, it's all about opinions, football, and this program in particular is about opinions. And I love doing this because I could sit here with a Leicester fan and we could say, "God, we were wonderful, weren't we? We should have won." Blah blah blah. I'd like to see I prefer to have an opposition fan on after the match than before the match, because I think it is very. And what you're saying is there's no wrong and no right about any of this. It's all about opinions and what we read in the paper and what we make of it. So no, I totally respect you for having that opinion. I just think you can't get it right necessarily any time. The only other thing I'd throw in, just last thing on Tielemans, is there's this magic 25 million that he's going for. So let's say, for example, whether you want him or not, but let's say Manchester United come in and say, right, we'll give you 25 million.
Yeah.
And we don't know whether he's got he might have a minimum in his contract if you want to buy him, because he has still got that year to go. And yes, we could lose him on a free at the end. Of course we could. But you come in, Manchester United come in and say 25 million. And then Liverpool go, oh, Leicester are selling Tielemans. Oh, Man United have put 25. Let's put a bid of 30 million in. We'll get him. We could end up with a bidding war. Not saying we will. I'm not saying we will, but we could end up in a bidding war, and no disrespect, as much as you say Leicester is a well-run club, who got the better deal with Maguire? And I'm not being awful with that. I'm not, but he wasn't an 80 million pound defender, 40, 50, yes, I could understand that. You know what I mean? But it's. We could talk all night about this, couldn't we? We could, but I mean, I'd like him to stay. I think there's still a possibility he might stay. I think he's going to look at Leicester's ambitions, see where we are in the summer, see if anybody comes in for him, because we've not had an offer for him yet, and you've got to remember that. We went all through January, and unless you were an oil-rich club, you didn't really spend money in the January window this year, but no offer came in for him. And it will be interesting to see what offers do come in. Do Man United, Liverpool, Barcelona, whoever wait there and say, well, let's have a look and we'll see next summer. We might get him on a free. And he might be sat there with his agent thinking, bloody hell, I could end up without a team here. What's going on? Better sign a new contract. Signing a new contract does not mean he's going to stay with us forever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
All it means is that we can go in and stick a release. We might have a release clause in anyway. Who knows? So it's all going to be a waiting game. all I will say is, and I do mean this, and I know you weren't particularly impressed with him on Saturday, but whoever gets him will be getting a good player. He will go with my best wishes, and I will wish him, like I say, we will miss him, But I mean, who do you think then in the Man United team was better than him on Saturday?
Fred.
Okay, possibly. I was hoping you weren't going to say him, but he probably had one of his. Sorry.
Do you agree?
I don't know if he was certainly
comparable.
He was certainly comparable, definitely, yeah. I didn't really watch him enough to say whether he was particularly better or not, but he was certainly comparable, yes. And Fred and McTominay, they've taken some stick off Man United fans, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. I'm not one of those fans. I'm big fans of McFred, as they're called, but I think a lot of it is down to the fact that football fans don't really, as much as they love football, they're not particularly educated in like how modern football works, and they don't need to be perfectly honest. But how double pivots function, Fred and McTominay play that role extremely well. It's not a glamorous role. I'm sure, like in the Euros, we saw Declan Rice and Calvin Phillips participating in a double pivot, and it wasn't sexy, was it? It was Sterling, it was Kane, it was Saka. Those are the players that everyone was like raving about. But it was the double pivot is the sort of the foundation to any sort of success, like from your midfield. I felt that McTominay, who I'm a massive fan of, had a poor game. But I also think quite a lot of it was tactics, because I'm sure you can remember this bit, but McTominay basically bullied 3 of your players in the midfield and just bumbled past them, and then hit a crossfield ball, and there was no one there. And I don't think that is McTominay trying to hit that ball that I see him hit a lot and not being able to execute it. I think it was just poor tactics and poor positioning from Sancho, who was a disaster. He had an awful game, Sancho.
I've got to agree with you on that one. Yes, yeah.
Like I'd much have preferred Harvey Barnes to have been on our team than Sancho in that match.
Yeah.
Alanga as well. Like, he's a young kid. He's one of us. He's not ready for top flight football. Like, he might be able to play mid-table teams, I guess, but against Leicester, who traditionally, now you're sort of like top 6, Leicester, aren't you, as a football club?
Yeah.
I think that's fair to say Leicester are top 6.
I think we're looking to be the best of the rest, if you like,
Yeah, but I mean, you're up there. You're competitive. No one likes playing Leicester. No. Do you know what I mean? Like, when you see who are Man City playing this weekend, who are Liverpool playing, Leicester away, something, like not a fun place to go to. Something could happen there.
Yes.
But I thought McTominay was poor, but I also believe a lot of that was down to tactics. And as I said earlier, the second he went off, I felt the game changed. I felt your midfield began to get to grips with things. Like, did you watch it on the telly? Yeah.
Yes.
Could you hear your coach constantly shouting second balls?
No, I didn't, to be honest with you, because I was doing a live watch along.
You have the sound down.
I couldn't have the sound on, no.
Right. No. Well, on Sky, I could constantly hear your bench shouting second ball non-stop throughout the game. And every time it was McTominay that was smacking up that stuff. That was going for the second balls. And when he came off, there was no one to get the second ball. And Leicester just began to advance slowly but surely up the pitch like it was the First World War. Just to trenchful warfare as they went up. And we had nothing to do with it. Like, we couldn't... For some reason, we thought that Rashford had turned into Duncan Ferguson and was just smacking long balls to him. And it was just getting eaten up. So I think that the substitution of McTominay for Rashford, if that had been McTominay for Matic, I think we might have looked at a different result. But I felt it let you into the game far too much.
I mean, I'm just looking quickly here at the player ratings that the BBC do when you get. I mean, it's very. I don't take a lot into it, to be honest with you,
All right.
because you've got Man United. Like Leicester fans will always vote for Vardy if he scores, just because it's Vardy and just because he scored. But man of the match overall was Maddison. But the Manchester United fans voted, like you said, Fred as their number as their highest one. That was only a 5.82 though. Which I guess kind of sums the game up. But the question I want to ask you before we just take a quick look at the tables is, how many of this team would get into Alex Ferguson's team at its best?
Of the team that played at the weekend, so I can't get Ronaldo.
Oh, no, yeah, you can get Ronaldo. Yeah, you can get of your current squad. How many of them would be good enough to? I presume Ronaldo is going to be on that list.
Ronaldo would get in, yeah.
Yes.
But unless it was like young Ronaldo that he was taking the place from, Ronaldo would get in. I think that McTominay would get in as a squad player. I think Bruno would get in as a squad player. I think Harry Maguire would get in as a squad player. But in terms of first team players, I don't. Well, obviously, none of them are going to get in unless Ferguson can sort of do his alchemy and get Sancho and Rashford and Pogba to the levels that Scholes, like even Jesper Blomqvist performed at. So no, none of them are going to.
No, I must admit, I did see the camera swung round to Sir Alex sat in the ground. In the stand, and I thought, it's like the Grim Reaper watching you, isn't it? He's always there. Somebody said on the telly once, it's like Andrew Murray's mum.
Yeah. I always think of him like an ex-girlfriend.
Yeah,
like, do you know what you mean? You're with your wife or whatever, having a romantic time, and you just look up at the window, and she's there watching, and things were better in my day.
And I feel sorry for the manager in that, but I mean, he is. It is what it is, But just looking at the table, then here we are. I mean, Leicester, we're up to 9th now. Is top 4? I mean, a lot of Manchester United fans are saying, "Oh, top 4's over now. We've lost it." But you literally, yes, all right, you've played 2 more games than Arsenal, but you're only 3 points off Tottenham in 4th, and you played the same games as them.
Yeah, but if you look at the form bit, it begins to tell a different story.
Well, all right, let's bring the form table up then. That was my next slide, as they say.
Okay.
But you're 6th there. You're 6th in the form table.
So that doesn't get you top 4 though, does it? And it also doesn't get Manchester City a title. Looking at that.
I know that was a very interesting thing that Liverpool are romping it there, and Spurs should be running it for them close for second, shouldn't they? But it's been a weird season, though, hasn't it? Overall, I mean, who would have ever said that Brentford would have beaten Arsenal on the opening day? Who would have said they would have put 4 away against Chelsea at the bridge? And who would have said that Chelsea's owner would have got, all these.
Well, yeah.
It's been the weirdest it's been, in fact, for me, it's been a weirder season than the COVID season. Maybe that was because I was expecting it to get back to normal. I don't know.
Well, I think for me, like the COVID season was just like, it was a fever dream, as it were, like players. But I still think we're feeling the effects of it. Like the players have been playing football non-stop for what seems 2 years now. They haven't had a lot of breaks. And I think that everyone is really struggling with how much football they're playing, and as well as the fact that Manchester United did well in the COVID season. We finished 2nd, and it might have been a false dawn, but I also felt that it was because the players, not just at Manchester United, at every club, had nothing to do but football. They couldn't go out, they couldn't do stuff, and it was their sole focus. And I think that when we look at our footballers at the moment, I think a lot of them have really struggled with the COVID years.
Yes.
And so I think that this will probably be the last weird season we have as we adjust to this sort of post-pandemic world as things get back to normal. But then again, we've got a World Cup in November.
I know.
It's crazy.
The World Cup final is on December the 18th. On the 26th, we're back into the Premier League.
Are you serious? Is that true?
Yeah. Yeah, it's the 18th is the World Cup
Yeah.
final.
But we've got Boxing Day fixtures.
Yeah, we're playing Boxing Day
Absolutely
fixtures. Yes.
crazy.
Yeah, tell me. I mean, I don't think England are going to have to worry about any of our players being in the World Cup final.
I don't know about that. But I mean, as a football fan, that sounds fantastic. I can't wait to get leathered at Christmas, like down the pub. Imagine watching the World Cup final, like, with Santa hats on and stuff.
Yes, I know.
Absolutely great.
Weird, isn't it? And
Shout out to all the migrant workers.
That kind of sums up football at the moment, doesn't it? Really. But look, I've got to say, where do you think you will finish this season before you go, and who do you think will be your next manager?
I think our next manager will be Erik ten Hag because of the immense social media campaign being driven by agenda-driven social media websites. Yeah. I would prefer it to be Poch, as I think it's a safer choice. As for where we're going to finish, I actually, and I know this sounds crazy, I want us to finish 7th now, which would mean UEFA Conference League. Yes. On the basis that our youth team are very likely to win the FA Youth Cup this year for the first time in 11 years. And with the UEFA Conference League, I think I would enjoy it more than the Premier League if we sent our youth team to those games. And we got to see them. There's no way Ronaldo is playing in the UEFA Cup or the UEFA Conference League. Like, he'll play in the Premier League, but he won't play in those matches. So I think realistically, we're not finishing 5th. We're not finishing top 4th. I don't know if we'll finish 8th. So it's between 6th or 7th. And I want 7th so that the kids can go and represent our values as, like a bunch of 19-year-olds on their holidays playing football. Good luck to them.
Yeah, and don't you think that it's at the end of the day, it's a trophy, isn't it?
It is, but it's one that I don't think a club that spent the money that we did and got the players in that we did should celebrate. I think as a United fan, and I'm not doing it down, but as a United fan, I think we'd be sneered at if we celebrated that trophy. UEFA Cup, yeah, that's okay. But the UEFA Conference League, it's not where Manchester United should be. It's indicative of our fall. And I think the players would be embarrassed to celebrate it, to be honest.
You see, that kind of what, as a fan of a non-Big Six club, if you like, that was kind of what annoys us, like with Arsenal fans last season. Like, we'd sooner finish 7th than finish 6th than not be in Europe. And it's like, well, you weren't good enough to get in anyway because you finished 2nd, sort of thing,
They've got no history of success in Europe. Like Manchester United, we've all been on, like, Manchester United for like the last 30 years, we've had away games in Europe all the time, right?
Yes.
A club like Leicester, you haven't. And I think it's absolutely fantastic that Leicester are in Europe, and I think it should be taken very, very seriously by Leicester, because who knows when the next time you might get to a semi-final in Europe is. Look at West Ham. They went absolutely mental when they got to the quarterfinals, like the other week. Never ever make fun of a club for doing well in a competition. But with United, that competition's not for us. We're a Champions League club, and it's just ridiculous for us to be in it. Like, and I don't mean that to sound arrogant, but it's just from everything, from our stadium to the players we have to the amount of money we spend. It's a failure to be in that competition.
Is it a failure to be in that rather than not being anything at all?
They're both failures.
But like I said, though, is that, okay, there's ourselves and there's Bodø Glimt from Norway that are probably the surprise packages.
Celtic, I believe.
Yeah, and they actually did beat Roma 6-1 in the league part of it. But these teams, Feyenoord, Slavia Prague, PSV, Roma, Marseille, PAOK, PSV, I've said those. They're all teams that you were not so long ago have been in the Champions League, and I just think, to be honest with you, you can't say, 5 years ago we won this, so therefore we should be in this league. Do you know what I mean? There's so many years pre-Fergie when
Yes.
you just won the odd cup here and there. You know,
I think that's the other point, is that Manchester United are built upon the European Cup. Like, it's such a crucial part of our history.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure that everyone knows about the Busby Babes.
Of course, yes.
And
yes.
how, like, our manager at the time, like, he believed that being in the European Cup was one way to reunite a post-war Europe. Like,
Yeah.
it's ingrained in our club how important the European Cup is, which is why it was sickening to see that we led the European Super League get out of the Champions League Cup. Disgraceful.
Yeah.
So we have like this real resonance as a club with the European Cup. Those nights are special. That anthem is special. It's so important to us, and so it sticks in our teeth. And it's like it's horrible not to be in it. And it's like teams like Arsenal and Tottenham. You know, like, I respect them as clubs. I hate Arsenal. I can't tell you how much I hate them. But they have no history of, like, European success, and they don't really have any sort of history in Europe. Manchester United do, and it's a disgrace. The shepherds of our club have let us get in to the third, you know, the sort of like the third-rated cup in Europe. It's not what we're about. We're a European Cup team. It's crucial to us and our culture, and that's why I'm so upset about it. I don't have any issue with that competition. I've got no issue with people wanting to win it and stuff. But Manchester United, with our history, we should not be in anything but the Champions League.
No, I mean, to be honest with you, that was very, very, very well put. You know, to me, I understand that more than we're Manchester United, it's where we should be sort of argument, you know. But look, Darius, thank you so much for coming on today. First, I just want to say before you go, and I'm sure you'll agree with me on this, but we wish all the best to Louis van Gaal and the news today. So our thoughts are with him. It is football itself is just a game at the end of the day, but there we go. How can people find you? Your links are in the description in the YouTube, but just give a shout out to where people can find you.
Normally I'm either on Rich Sports or the Manchester United Agenda, and you can find me there. Brilliant.
Mate, good luck for the rest of the season. We don't have to play you again now, so I can say that. And I hope things turn around for you.
Likewise, I hope to see Yuri Tillemans in a Leicester shirt next season. 6-year contract.
I would love loving
it.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much for having me on.
You won't hear me stop crowing about it, I tell you.
I hope to hear it.
Thanks for coming on, Darius. All the best, mate. Stay safe and take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Cheers, mate. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Oh, thanks to Darius there. Great guy. I love it. He's not say a proper fan, that's being unfair to other fans, but, you know, with the description of Manchester United and Europe there, you know, he put it across so well. And when you've got a fan that does that, then, you know, you can understand it. And I'm going to go now because I've got to go. I've got sloppy seconds later. 9 o'clock. Join us back here. It's in 26 minutes' time. And we are going to be doing the weekend roundup. Yep. Wow, Scott. Really? Palace 2-0 up. Oh, Anthony, see, you've gone on holiday and your team. Whoa. I didn't go for that. I went for the draw, I've got to be honest with you. But whoa. Oh, you know what it's going to be? We know what we're going to be hearing now for the rest of the week. Arteta out. Arteta's not got a plan. Arteta's not man for our club. We should be having a better managers. We're a bigger club. Palace 2, Arsenal 0. Thanks very much. Please give a sub if you're watching this on YouTube. Smash the likes and please share the video if you are able to. And if you have been listening to us on whichever podcast platform you use, thank you so much for listening as well. It really does mean a lot to me. I'll see you back here at 9 with Louise and we'll be looking back at all the weekend games. Take care now. See you later.
Thanks for watching Leicester Till I Die. This is Chris saying goodbye and see you next time.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram.